Hello again, friends. Welcome to S.O.S, Sense on Sunday, or Stephen on Sunday, or however you'd like to have it. Usually we try to get going at 7. Thank you for your patience. A little after 8 here, but 8:15. My apologies, but I have duties. I have to feed my special son. Isn't that right, Danny? Lovely dinner tonight that we did for him. Anyway, as you can see tonight, friends, it's roughly an hour we talk for tonight. I'm Stephen Manning, the administrator of the Integrity Ireland Association. I also do talks and videos and the like under the names of S.O.S, Truth Matters, and so on and so forth. Now, today we're revisiting an old theme. Now, before we get into this, we'll just cover some of the current events. I'd like to say straight away how personally thrilled I am, if thrilled is the right word, but just to see what appears to be the beginning of the end of the problems in Gaza. Now, we shall come to that in a few moments, guys, all right? But as you can see by this title, Tricksters, Tyrants, Thugs, and Thieves. Now, this represents, as you'll see in a few minutes, the tricksters would be the lawyers, the tyrants would be the judges, the thugs would be the guards, and the thieves would be the civil service, in particular, the court service. And it's a quip or a clip I used to promote a book I did called DIY Justice in Ireland, which was about prosecuting by common informer. So we'll be talking about this today because later this week, there's a man called Patrick McGreal who is taking an action. We'll look at what he's doing. And this is partly to encourage people to support what he's doing, partly to explain to you what exactly it is that he's doing and how very simple it would be for all of us to take on this corrupt system, politicians, judges, civil servants, anybody working for the state, and actually prosecute them in our own names. All you have to do is have the will to do it. It's easy. It's when I say cheap, it costs nothing. It requires 2 A4 pieces of paper and the gumption to walk into a district court, or according to Mr. McGreal, also you can go to a commissioner for oaths, I think, or a peace commissioner or something. So we'll look at that in a few minutes, guys. But let's see now. As I say every week, I've got the slides in a certain order. Sometimes they take me by surprise, so please bear with me. The beauty of going live, okay? So let's see what we have. Oh, yes. So this is what we will be discussing a little bit later. I'll bring it up a little bit bigger for you. That was the booklet that we did, DIY Justice in Ireland, prosecuting by common informer. Don't worry, guys, if you're unfamiliar with this phrase, we're going to cover it all in a few minutes. Over there on the right, the quick and easy lawful way to take on tricksters, tyrants, thugs, and thieves in the Irish justice system. Okay, and at the bottom there you see the Law Society, the Garda Síochána, the judges, and the court service in particular. That's what I'm talking about. Now, before we get to that, a quick revisit. As I said, I'm very pleased to hear that there's the beginning of a resolution of what's been going on in Gaza. It's been a very hot topic. It's very hard for anybody to have an opinion without being, labeled either anti-Semite or pro-Muslim Brotherhood or terrorist and all the rest of it. It's been awfully difficult. And I've had a few exchanges about this. My approach has been to try to look at the bigger picture and to understand. And I say this again, guys, with the greatest respect. Okay, please understand now I'm making a differential here between Islam and Muslims, all right? I personally know several decent, honorable, amenable Muslim people. But the ideology of Islam, number one, and I say this at the risk of sort of getting myself into trouble, but I think it's important that we speak our truth, guys. And I've been sitting on some of this information for about 30 odd years now. When I first started studying world religions and symbolism and all the rest of it, it struck me at the time. Now, Christianity has its fair share of bad stuff as well, and that's neither here nor there at the moment, because the immediate problem we're facing is an ideology that is dedicated to teaching children that the best thing that they can do with their lives is murder infidels and Jews, which are, well, they're all infidels. Anybody who's not a Muslim, basically, that's the very best thing they can do with their lives. And if they do it, there are rewards waiting for them in paradise. It's a completely upside down concept to the Christian notion of, love thy neighbor, realize that life is a wonderful gift and we've got to make the most of it, doing good things, not wicked, bad things, And all the politics aside and all that stuff, guys, please, and please bear with me, all right? The politics aside, we've got to start being brave. We have to stand up and say what we know to be true. Now, we can have our beliefs, of course, but as I've said many, many times, I can believe my ears are made of chocolate. And there's nothing you can do to convince me otherwise, unless you can somehow get me to lick my own ears and realize, well, there's no chocolate taste there. And then I have to, but if, so there's certain things we believe that cannot really be discussed in factual terms, okay? Certain things. But those things are becoming less and less and less as we become better and better informed, better educated, more access to information, the internet, especially not controlled information, like from the mainstream media, from governments and so on, okay? So I'm a great proponent of only talking about or arguing about things that you know to be true, all right? And there's an awful lot of information out there that is misleading, deceptive, disingenuous. So if we stick to what we know to be true and allow that people will have beliefs that we may or may not agree with, but if we know that someone's beliefs are either incorrect, wrong, off the mark, or dangerous, or whatever it might be, we should be duty bound to say something. This nonsense about respecting everybody's opinion is nonsense, especially if you know that someone's opinion is wrong, or dangerous, or wicked, or evil, or whatever it may be. Anyway, having said that, guys, the point I'm trying to make here is that radical jihadi radical jihadi Islam is an ideology. It is not a religion. Now, I know this will vex quite a lot of people, but it's just a label that's been put on something. It's a socio-political movement of bloody conquest. That's what it is. Its aims and ambitions they're very clear, guys. You go and look them up. A lot of the practices that are considered to be acceptable and normal in radical Islamic cultures would be abhorrent to most Christian or Western or liberal democracies and so on and so forth. All right. Again, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to inflame too many tensions here. But I've been looking at the conflict in Israel, in the Middle East, call it what you like, Gaza and everything, from this bigger picture perspective, where I've been looking at the symbolism. I've been looking at the links all the way back to Ishmael and Isaac, and from there all the way back to Cain and Abel. And it is very clear to me, not just thematically and theologically and philosophically, but also symbolically, that the Arab nations who have sworn to murder the Jews and eliminate them, and the Israelis, are most definitely in the Cain position. And the Israelites would be, it's certainly traditionally anyway, in the feminine Abel position, the younger brother, the shepherd, or the original good shepherd, okay? Now, the reason I'm saying this, and we will be moving on from this because there's more important things really to talk about today, but I just wanted to, and I do this, I just take these snapshots and do a Google search, The Muslim Brothers Irish way station, Clonsky Mosque remains shuttered, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's some time back. Now, I heard on the news briefly today, there are moves afoot now to reopen this mosque. But if it is a foothold of the Muslim Brotherhood, what people need to know is that the Muslim Brotherhood is the sort of catch-all umbrella that covers the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, and so on and so forth. The Iranian regime. That's all the Muslim Brotherhood, guys. This is not an entity that we should be encouraging to be having in Ireland, not with all of the population problems we already have here. That's the main point I'm making. Ireland's first jihadist attack officially confirmed by Gardaí, blah, blah, blah. That was last year. And 9 terrorism arrests in Ireland for jihadist Islamic extremism. Well, it's sort of a very logical thing, guys. Look, I'm first of all, I'm not racist, okay? I was married to a Japanese woman. All my 3 children were born in different countries. As growing up, I had a black brother and sister in the family, adopted into the family, and so on. So there's no racism here. But if you can identify a mindset, a cultural mindset that is definitively dangerous and possibly even could be described as evil, in as much as it parades murder and death and the abuse of women and children as, quote, normal, or the avenue into paradise, we have to call it, guys. We have to call it. And if these people happen to be brown, or if they happen to be wearing hijabs, or if they happen to be black, or whatever the case may be, that is secondary to the mindset. You have to identify the mindset. You can't just throw a blanket over a whole. You can't say all Arabs, for example, are because they're Muslims are wicked. Of course not. You can't say that. But there has to be some filters in place. The same as you wouldn't allow someone into your house if you knew that they were a thief or a paedophile or whatever it might be. Why aren't the government, guarding our borders and making sure that the people that are coming in at least have the modicum of respect required for the culture to be able to integrate and live in harmony with decent people in that culture? Anyway, I hope the point has been made. All right, on to the next slide. Let's see. All right, and again, just to hammer this home, we'll be going off this conflict. Now, I saw this slide and it struck me as being worthy of being shared, guys. I'll let you freeze it yourself and look back over it. I'm not going to read them all through, but starting from 1948, with that first Arab-Israel war that they called the Nakba, the Palestinians called the Nakba as if they were picked upon, right? And all the way down to 2023, the current conflict, hopefully that's going to be resolved now in some form or other, okay? But this is a slide. Now, I didn't create the slide. I haven't researched every single item on this, but it seems pretty obvious to me, like who started it? And just look at all of the flags of the nations and note one thing in particular, and this is to do with my focus on symbolism. Notice one thing in particular. In all of those flags on the left-hand side of all the aggressor nations against Israel, not a single one of them has blue in the flag. And the reason for this, guys, is because blue is the feminine color. Now, if you want to know more, I've done several presentations. If they've been taken off to YouTube or Facebook, then you can find them on Rumble, which doesn't kowtow to the censors, But I've got some that focus in and talk about the symbolism. There's the different ends of the spectrum. There's deep red at one end, deep blue at the other. That's the limit to what we can see, all right? And believe it or not, this symbolism is embedded in human history, in the flags, the nations of the world, in scripture, in mythology, in science, in the makeup of the family, concept, plan, action, holy, healthy, happy, and all this sort of stuff. It's all... I used to call it the triadic archetype. Now I call it the original principle. That's the little logo top right, okay? But just again, to hammer home a point here, guys, let's see if this can make sense to everybody. Oh, sorry, we'll come back to that in a second. I did that by accident. So you can see, and Israel, on the other hand, has a blue and white flag. Why would this be important? Now, bear in mind, most of these flags only came into existence less than 100 years ago, all right? Now, and it's quite small. I can't really read it in detail from here. I'll see if I can bring it up just a bit bigger. But at the top it says there, you see what the Bible says about Israel as a woman. Why, you might ask yourself, is Israel all the way through the Bible, when God or the prophets or the judges are speaking to Israel, giving directions or instructions, they always talk about my daughter Zion. They talk about receiving the Messiah, like that Israel is like a woman being prepared. Now, this corresponds to the notion of Abel being in the feminine position because he's younger and smaller and not so strong. And that, of course, is a reversal of the original principle. And the original principle, as you see up there, the blue, which is the feminine, is in the superior position. And the masculine is supposed to be subservient to the feminine. The masculine represents the action, the feminine represents the mind, sophos, right? Action, logos, the word in action, right? The mind, sophos, and deity, theos, all right? Theos, sophos, logos. God, Eve, Adam. Source, feminine, masculine. That is the original order of things. And human history has been the inverse of that, where the deity is missing and the masculine has dominated the feminine, no more so than in the Arab cultures of today in varying different degrees. And it's interesting to note as well, guys, that amongst those Arab nations that are trying to recognize Israel and collaborate with Israel in, in diplomatic terms and things like that, or set up trade. In other words, though that's the reversal of the Cain-Abel problem. And you'll notice that it's those more moderate Arab nations that seem to be prospering in as much as their relationship with the West is going, right? And it's these, the sort of radical jihadi Islamists that are maintaining what I call the satanic Cain mindset, because surely it was a satanic thing that Cain was driven to murder his younger brother. Why? Because God favored the younger brother. Why? Because of the original principle. Abel was in the feminine position. Cain was supposed to give his offering to Abel, and Abel would have given both the offerings to God, and everything would have been hunky-dory. But Cain got jealous, didn't listen to God, and because he was bigger and stronger than his brother, he used that power inappropriately in a malicious, wicked, murderous way. And the colors of Cain would have been, therefore, red and black. Just start thinking about it. Think about the Nazi colors, for example, red and black, okay? There's a lot of examples of it, guys. It's where the masculine, the negative, what I call diabolical masculine, dominates, and usually the feminine is suppressed. Now, on the contrary, when we look at the Israeli flag, it's all blues and whites, all right? These are the colors of the feminine, arguably even the feminine divine. If you think about the apparitions of Our Lady, for example, down through the centuries, ask what she was wearing. Almost invariably, it's white or blue and white. Why? Nobody's answered this question, guys. I'm trying to give you an insight into a bigger picture. And then finally, you're looking at this same slide. And again, I sort of apologize for bringing up this dark association, but the four horses of the apocalypse are colored: black, white, green, and red. And it just so happens, in what many people believe we are entering the last days. We're just entering now. It'll be the 6,000th year anniversary of the start of Christ's mission in 2030, when they intend to do the whole, the Great Reset, the New World Order, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, I don't think it's coincidence, guys. I think there's a lot to be understood here. 6,000. That's the 6 is the number of the beast. 666 and all that sort of stuff. And we're now entering the 7,000 millennium. Let's hope to God that we're not going to have 1,000 years, though, of this, what we've just seen happening in the Middle East, and the, the invasions of so many democratic countries by arguably people who are still possessed of the satanic Cain mindset. Okay. All right. And I say that with respect. I've studied world religions, guys. I did several years in a seminary. I'm not here trashing a genuine religion, not at all, because genuine religion has a purpose. And if you understand what that purpose is, it's easy to discount radical jihadi Islam as not qualifying to be called religion. It's a socio-political movement of conquest, and it has to be seen as such and understood as such. All right. And no false pretending to be polite and nice and everything with, oh, well, it's just a different religion. No, it's not, guys. It's not. We have to understand this. Okay. Right then, let's pump on then. Got quite a lot to go through today. Now, this is another slide I saw, guys. Now, again, I have to be, for the sake of disclosure, I don't know that these facts are absolutely true, and I'd have to comment under it. I can't remember where it was. Might have been on X or something. And I said, well, if this is true, and I qualified my argument like that, and I believe somebody else commented and pointed out, well, there are some liberal Arab nations who apparently may not be abiding to this rule. But it's interesting. 85% of the world's refugees are Muslim. Not one of the 56 Muslim countries are taking in refugees. 11 of these countries are the richest in the world. Pay attention. Again, questions have to be asked, you know, especially when a lot of the newcomers, let's call it, and we're talking about Ireland now, we'll stick to Ireland, a lot of the newcomers seem to be hostile to the Irish culture, to the Christian ethos, to liberal democracy, and are absolutely insistent that they are going to live the way they bloody well want to, you know. And you have to beg the question, so, well, look, if that's your mindset, I mean, look, if I'm going to emigrate somewhere, one of the first questions I'm going to ask is, am I going to be able to live the way I want to live in that country? You know, these people don't seem to have asked that question. Yeah. And it is a sad fact and a sad reality that a lot of the refugees from, let's call it the Judea-Palestine area, that area of land, were kept only as refugees in the few countries they went to. Jordan was one of them. I've forgotten the others now. Egypt, another one. But they were kept. They weren't allowed to integrate into their societies. And then unrest broke out, and most of them got kicked out again. You know, it's this sort of problem. We've got a serious problem in Gaza in particular. You know, the Arab Muslim mindset there. And I've seen already, even with this ceasefire trying to you know, take hold and grow roots. You know, that some of the Gazan Arabs cheering and chanting and dancing death to the Jews in the streets, and yeah, we're coming back stronger now than ever, and you know, and you're never going to stop us, and you know, glory to Allah and death to all infidels and all that sort of stuff. And you think, oh my God, what's it going to take for them to learn that life is precious? Life is not the vehicle by which you do wickedness to others in order to earn a place in paradise. You know, if that's the case, there is no loving God. Yeah, if that's the case. And that's the other big argument, is the Allah of the radical jihadis the same guy? I rather think not. Okay. Anyway, it's an emotive topic, guys. Anyway, let's move to the next one. Right, so here we go, the Irish presidential election. What's to be said here? I haven't said much about this, guys, but this sort of sums it up. So according to this breaking news, i.e. Catherine Connolly has a substantial lead in the Áras race. The Áras is the Irish presidential palace, if you like, guys, you know. There were three candidates. Everybody knows this. I don't want to waste everyone's time. I just want to make a point. What choice do you really have here? First of all, they eliminated Maria Steen, who arguably was the most qualified, but we'll have a quick look at her in a minute. So we've got three people. This guy, Jim Gavin, apparently he was previously Fine Gael sort of affiliate. And then the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, got behind him and said, I want this guy to represent Fianna Fáil. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It really doesn't matter. And we find out, basically, and again, all respect to the man for what he's done in GAA, but the GAA is a bit of a hotbed of, you know, localized corruption. I think it would be fair to say. No, of course, I don't want to disrespect everybody who's involved in GAA, not at all, but it seems to me there's a culture within the GAA that's very tightly linked to politics and cronyism and things like that. There are quite a few examples out there for us to see, but ultimately, you know, for all his smiles and his success, it turns out that he was at the very least dishonest with a tenant, kept money that would belong to him. The fact that that tenant, and this is going back many years apparently, he even promised, I'm sending it to you. I'm sending you the money right now, $3,500 or something. I'm sending it to you right now, but the money never arrived. I think the very fact that his tenant was the deputy editor of a mainstream newspaper is really what did the trick. All of a sudden, he's resigned after several fluffed attempts to sort of bat the issue away. Oh, I don't recall that. I'm not sure. And oh, really? Oh, man, I must look into that. And yeah, why would we be surprised that political nominations would be dishonest? Why would we be surprised? The most Irish. And so anyway, he's gone. So it leaves us down to two. So we've got Catherine Connolly and Heather Humphreys. What a choice. Right. So here we go. What about free speech, Catherine? So Enoch Burke's brother was thrown out. Now, I saw the video clip, guys. We're going to look at it in a second, at least some of it. This is the younger brother, Elijah, right? He's the younger brother of Enoch. We all know who Enoch is. He's the school teacher who refused to use pronouns, got suspended, challenged suspension, got arrested, got jailed for, I think it was 500 days. You know, it's just shocking, the overreach of the establishment. They're evangelical Christians, and although some people might be irritated at their consistency and insistency, I think that it's pretty obvious they're coming from a moral and honest place, sound and secure in Christian values. And for that, I personally respect them, you know. So no great surprise, Elijah. They've got another brother, I can't remember his name, who's a barrister, and he can't get tutelage, you know, and he can't get a placement. And it's basically because they're too bloody honest. The system, you see, I've sort of tried to explain this in indirect ways to them. If the system is diabolical and you are absolutely honest, it's not going to work. All right. If you maintain your integrity and your morality, you know, something's going to give. And for the time being, the system is bigger, stronger, more bullying, just like I talked about Cain earlier. It's the same satanic Cain mindset, autocracy, top-down orders. You will do as you're told or you will be punished. Yeah, with all this attitude, okay? So we're going to play this short video clip here, guys. I'll just let it run through. I think it's only a minute and a half. And it's some young woman questioning why are 5 Gardaí present. I saw the young man, it's not in this clip, but I saw him stand up and he tries to question Catherine Connolly. Now, bear in mind, she's in a public meeting trying to promote her own avenue to the presidency. And he tries politely, I think it says it here, it says here somewhere. He at the top one there, you know, Enoch Burke's younger brother politely asked presidential candidate Catherine Connolly what she thought about his brother Enoch's situation. Next thing you know, the guards and the security are in and they physically bundled him out. And I want you to watch the expression on Catherine Connolly's face, and ask yourself, is this the sort of person you want representing you as a president? So here we go, guys.
Question was going to be before he was let back in. You asked him, Elijah, what's your question to Catherine Connolly? So that's a very serious state of affairs.
The organisers of the event were asking what the question
No,
was.
you asked Elijah Burke, you said, what is the question you want to ask her? And I'm asking you, why are you on campus tonight, guard?
Yeah, so we want to know what question.
Just pause for a second, just to interject. I actually know this sergeant. I can't remember exactly where from, but the fact alone that guards would come up to a person in a public question and answer debate and try and pre-qualify what you can and cannot say. This is Gestapo stuff, guys. This is Stasi stuff, all right? And they're getting more and more, I mean, it's bad enough in the UK, but they're getting worse at it, guys. Anyway, here's the young man himself, Elijah Burke, okay? And you got to ask yourself, what business is it of the guards? And he stood up politely, guys. I swear to God, I saw it. He stood up politely. And he said, well, you know, Miss Connolly, I wonder, as soon as you're going to be the president, what's your position? Next thing you know, and the crowd started jeering him as well. Cowards.
Questions I was going to ask Catherine Connolly. So this is kind of giving the idea that certain questions aren't allowed. So.
Yeah, look at the smug look on her face. Is that presidential material? I think not. Also, she is an ex-barrister. Yeah? You'd think, you know, he's a law student. He's studying law, okay? She's an ex-barrister. This brings to mind, and again, I don't want to go off track too much, but it brings to mind the time that the Chief Justice himself, the top judge in Ireland, yeah, Donal O'Donnell, cancelled 2 tickets that I had to a public discussion and debate about how was it? Fundamental human rights and the rule of law in Ireland and the future of Ireland, something like that. I had 2 tickets, me and my son Danny, we were going to go, you know, and he cancelled them. He ordered the court service to cancel them, and then there was a whole platoon of guards up there to make sure that I wasn't going to be allowed in. Yeah, it's a farce, guys. It's an absolute joke and a farce.
One young man asked a question. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Gardaí on campus because one young law student asked Catherine Connolly a question. In fact, he couldn't ask the question because she was answering from a pre-approved list of questions. So this is kind of what communism looks like.
Yeah, pre-approved list of questions. I want to emphasize this, guys. Same with Ruth Coppinger in another meeting where my friend Steve Kerr was violently assaulted by one of her thugs, and she pretended, oh, I didn't see anything. It had nothing to do with me, you know. His phone was ripped off him and smashed against the wall, and he was punched in the stomach. And that was because he stood up and asked an unscripted question as a reporter, you know, for the Irish Inquiry. And not enough people around the world understand how corrupt Ireland is, you know. Now, on top of that, listen to this woman's hypocrisy. I'll just go back a little bit. I want you to catch all that she says here. Listen to her hypocrisy. All right. Now, she's just smugly, she didn't say, guards, just a minute. Imagine being the presidential candidate. I know certainly if it was myself and I was sitting there and I'd say, just a minute, guards, please, because I'd have confidence. I'd have confidence that I can answer the young man's question or that it can be dealt with in a reasonable, mannerly, civil way, other than call the guards, you know, bring in the big boys, throw him out, you know. And she just sits there smug. Yeah. Anyway, let's hear what she has to say, guys.
So this is kind of what communism looks like.
Our republic couldn't allow questions to be put, and those that put questions were demonised and ostracised.
I hope I've made my point, my friends. All right. So certainly, my opinion, for what it's worth, she's not worth a vote. It's as simple as that. She's not worth a vote. She was a barrister who often represented the big boys in repossession cases, kicking people out of their homes. She had no qualms about that, possibly because lawyers are the second highest on the sociopathic scale after CEOs of international corporations. They don't care about people, guys. They don't care about, they care about themselves, okay, and their agendas and their careers, okay. So let's have a look now. We're on to the, let's go back to the, the slides. Yes, okay. So who else have we got? Well, now we have Heather Humphreys. And so here we go again. What sort of a choice is this? What's his name is out, the fella. Now we've got a choice between, again, a sort of Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They're both tools of the establishment. Heather Humphreys, of course, has just got the backing of the Taoiseach, even though she's from Fine Gael and he's Fianna Fáil. Why? Because they're both basically the same. They're just the same. They just share power, switch sides, keep the people thinking there were two different political parties. We just help each other out when we have to, okay? So let's see what we have to look at. So now this particular poll suggests that she's in the lead. So who do you believe, guys? Yeah? One of them says Connolly's in the lead. The other one says she's in the lead. Well, what caught my attention here again, and I know it's been in the news, but the fact alone that her husband was a member of the Orange Order. Is there no, yeah, you know, there has to be some sense of inconsistency here. President of the Republic of Ireland, and you're married to a member of the Orange Order who, now I don't know the man, you know, but it says here he was a member of the controversial Orange Order during the Troubles. Now, the Orange Order was, you know, again, the grassroots, but like the Muslim Brotherhood for many of the Protestant murder gangs. You know, now I'm not saying any, you know, I don't know anything at all about how deep her husband's involvement in the Orange Order was, but it's certainly, it's inconsistent with the idea of being married to the President of the Republic. That's all I'm saying, right? So I wouldn't be voting for her either. Now, what's this at the bottom? F off and leave me alone. Now, it's a couple of years ago, guys, but the a couple of reporters found out that she had undeclared properties, right? Now, she was the Minister for Social Protection at the time, okay? And that she had undeclared properties. So it's called a ditch, this online reporting agency, right? The ditch asked Humphreys whether she had sought planning permission to change the use of the flats to office space, flats above her apartment or office. She has not sought permission, which is required under planning law. Oh dear, she's a minister. Maybe the law doesn't apply to her. Rather than answer the question, Humphreys asked who the two ditch journalists were. When told, she said, "Do you know what yous boys do? F off and leave me alone." The two residential flats above Humphreys' office are, from the exterior, in a state of dereliction, with curtains partly drawn over the first-story property. As of May last summer, there were just more than 1,000 people on the Cavan County Council waiting list for social housing. And she's got two empty properties above her house. She hasn't declared them. It's all against the law, guys. What can we do about it? What can we do about it? Okay. Charming woman. Yeah. We want her to be president. Not me. The real presidential material, arguably, was Maria Steen. Okay. So what can we do? All right. As you can see here, she suggested that the presidential election should be cancelled. I think it should as well, after Jim Gavin drops out. Yeah. Because she was improperly blocked from running, if you recall. Micheál Martin and Simon Harris both instructed the membership of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, you do not allow any independents to get on the ballot. It's not democracy, guys. It's not democracy, all right? So, like I said, I'd be very happy if there's some way to cancel the election and to rerun it and give her another shot at it, give the people a real choice. Right, so what's next? Yeah, right, here we go, guys. Now, we've got the last 20 minutes. We might have to rush through this. I'll tell you what we'll do, though, guys. Let's put it this way. If we run out of time on this, because this is hugely important, absolutely hugely important, and it's a pet baby of mine. If so, I will do a follow-on video sometime in the either tomorrow night or the night after, sometime before Thursday, to give people the information. Yeah, that's the best way to do it, guys, because if we rush it, it may do this initiative a disservice. So this is Patrick McGreal. I don't think I've met him personally, but I like the cut of his jib, as you might say. All right. Now, let's start. We'll just listen to the video clip. And what I'm going to do, guys, is keep stopping it and talking through it. But I'll read this bit first so that it's nice and clear. This coming Thursday at 10 a.m. at the Four Courts in Dublin, this is Mr. McGreal talking, we take a step every citizen must take. It is time to stand up and exercise our constitutional rights to protect ourselves with the law of our republic. The Constitution belongs to the people, and the courts are public places where the truth must be spoken and justice demanded. No one is above the law. We must learn, we must act, and we must hold state employees accountable. Our rights only live when we use them. Now, this clip is about 3 minutes, guys. Let me just give you a little short overview, all right? What Patrick intends to do is move ahead with private prosecutions. That means you don't have to go to the guards. You don't have to go to the court service in advance. You don't have to go to the DPP's office. Excuse me. You don't have to have lawyers, and you don't even have to have any money. In certain circumstances, the process is completely free, and you can actually just walk in with evidence to a district court judge, or as Patrick says, also, I think it's to peace commissioners, he says. I wasn't aware of this, by the way, but because I was dealing with district court judges. And you basically allege a crime has been committed, and the judge or the peace commissioner is duty bound to issue a summons for the accused to turn up. And it doesn't matter who the bloody hell they think they are. As a matter of fact, as we listen to Patrick now in a minute, it's worth pointing out the moves that the establishment, here's the little book that I wrote about it, okay? Yeah, that we saw at the beginning, yeah? The moves that the establishment, the unlawful, illicit, amoral, illegal, and criminal moves that the various agents of the state have conducted to stop us bringing these private criminal prosecutions, okay? But of course, when they do that, what do? You name them in another one, and you go back into the court and you name them for interfering in the process of justice, obstructing justice, perverting justice, whatever it might be, okay? So we'll listen to Patrick now, and I'd urge you to go and look for it. This was up on, I think it might have been TikTok. Was it TikTok or X? Anyway, you guys will know. I think it's TikTok. But I would encourage as many people as possible to get there and support this man and listen to what he has to say, because it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Let's go back here. Where are we? Okay, so let's listen to Patrick, and I'll stop it and start it as I need to, guys.
The four courts. I will be explaining in detail the constitutional provisions that allow us to engage with the High Court directly in the first instance. I will also be explaining the legislation that allows us to engage every single district court in the country and bring a private prosecution against a state employee.
Right. I just pause for a second, guys, just to, for those people that don't know it, every resident in the state can go into the High Court without a lawyer, without all that sort of stuff. Now, they try and make it difficult for you, of course. But you can go into the High Court and seek what is called a judicial review of any official decision made by any state employee or sub-state employee, whatever it might be, okay? So, I mean, it'll scare the life out of them. Now, if it's a civil issue, it's going to cost you money. If it's a criminal issue, don't let them force you to pay any fees. If you define it as a criminal issue that you're going in to complain about, you do not pay any fees. Now, this is hugely important, guys, because it's one of the tricks. Then one of the ways they try to stop people taking actions is by telling them, you know, you're going to have to pay 200-300 euros or something for a plenary summons or something. Not at all. If it's a criminal issue, I've done this, guys. I've set the precedent. I did it a number of times. They draw, well, where's your stamp duty in this? No, criminal issue. And you just hold your ground. You hold your ground, and eventually they run backwards and forwards, and they go, okay, stamp, 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 and off you go, right? Second, he talked about the private prosecution. This is prosecuting by common informer, and we'll look at that further in a moment.
We have thousands of peace commissioners in Ireland, around 6,000. We have, I think, 100.
Now, this is the thing I wanted to explain to people. He's talking about peace commissioners. Now, if you can take a common informer to a peace commissioner instead of a district court judge, that's a much better route, because the judges know, you know, they're insiders. You know, when I say the judges, the peace commissioners might be insiders as well, but not like a judge. Judges are politically handpicked precisely because they know how to protect the establishment, okay? And again, we won't have time today to do the whole story, but the amount of judges that I had literally either run out or just hand the paperwork back, refuse to action it. Yeah, I even had them say, "We're sorry, Dr. Manning, but we can't find a judge who's willing to to listen to the case." Can you believe it? That's their job. You know, they can't say, "No, I'm not listening to this case." If you have a legitimate case and you filled out the paperwork and you put it in front of them, they can't just go off to lunch and the registrar comes back to you after during lunch and says, "Oh, the judge says he's not dealing with this." It's unbelievable, guys. It really is. But I hope Patrick here finds his way through it. And like I said, the only reason that we didn't actually fail, because I actually got guards into court, and the tricks and deceptions and lies, and you're fighting them all, though. They're all in it together, and you're trying to use the law, their law, to force them to do their jobs properly. And you know, all of the cartwheels and gymnastics, devious lying, altering paperwork, changing court dates, pretending that you've missed something and you haven't been there, and falsifying affidavits. Oh, it's just unbelievable, guys. But, you know, but if enough people do it, and I thought when I wrote the booklet a few years ago, I think it was 2016, I thought this is it. That's the end of corruption in Ireland now. Because if people read this little booklet, you know, it's only about a tenner online, guys. You know, you read this little booklet, okay, as the law in it and everything, you will know how to even prosecute, as such as I did. I lodged a prosecution against Donald O'Donnell for perverting the course of justice, lying, falsifying documents, covering up for a corrupt High Court judge and all that sort of stuff. And that was the one that the court service said, oh, we're so very sorry that we can't find a judge who will, you know, who will basically receive you in court to deal with this matter. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Anyway.
District court judges, and between the judges and peace commissioners, we have no excuse to bring information before them. And
right, the information he's talking about, guys, it's literally, it's an A4 piece of paper. I don't have one here handy, but I'll show you a link to where you can get them, guys. It's an A4 piece of paper, and it literally says information at the top. It has a little harp over it, you know, information. And it's to put it very simply, and the way I used to do it, I would be the informant. That's why it's called prosecuting by common informer. I'm a common person and an informer. I'm giving information to the court, or in this case, if Patrick's right, which I'm not sure about personally, but I take his word for it, go to a peace commissioner. That's by a far better channel, by the way, because you run into far less resistance. You know, you're dealing with one individual. You can look them in the eyes. Yeah. Whereas if you go to the district courts, they've got all manner of ways that they can throw obstructions and delays and you know, in your way, you know, to make it as difficult as possible. But anyway, it's a one sheet paper, and basically you say something like, my name is Stephen Manning, and I'm from this address, and I'm alleging that, you know, Donald O'Donnell, I wouldn't put in Chief Justice Donald O'Donnell, I just call him Mr. Donald O'Donnell, and then comma, who just so happens to be the Chief Justice of Ireland, you know, has engaged in criminal offences against, and then I listed the crimes, the statutes that he had violated. And I had my evidence if the judge wanted to see it. And you just lay that information in front of the judge. And by law, if you have a reasonable, if he has any reasonable doubt that a crime has been committed, he has to issue a summons. And you then get the chance to cross-examine the accused as if you're a barrister yourself. You know, they have to come in and they have to answer your questions in front of the judge, and the judge makes a decision. Okay, all right. Hope you got all that, guys. All right, let's continue here with Patrick.
Have a summons issued against a state employee. Information is given to a peace commissioner or district court judge stating that we have evidence that a state employee has committed a crime. When we give that information to a peace commissioner, the peace commissioner or the district court judge is obligated by law to issue the summons.
Right. He's absolutely right. They are obligated by law to issue the summons. But as I said, watch out for the gymnastics and devious cartwheels that they will do anything they possibly can to avoid issuing that summons. Right. We've, again, the other book I did, Criminality in the Irish Courts, it's full of examples of this, all right? But the more people that do this, and the more people that are aware that this is an option, the quicker we can shut down this corrupt system. Yeah.
Of the summons, and then we lodged in the district court with a statutory declaration of service. And I will go through this step-by-step guide over the next few weeks from Mullingar District Court. When I bring allegations against state employees, and I will show you how to draft your information, draft your summons, and lodge it with your statutory declaration. This legislation is alive, and it's available to anyone in Ireland who wants to protect.
Right. He just said this legislation is alive. I think we're going to have enough time. We've only got about 10 minutes left, but I have enough time to walk you through this in a moment, guys. All right. So bear with me, because it's actually very, very simple. You know,
our country, our family, ourselves, our community, and the way we live. State employees at the minute are committing crimes against the public, and we have to learn how to articulate their actions into violations of statutory law. And it's only by doing this that we can show the judge how they acted outside the law, and we can prosecute them. We can sanction their liberty, and we can sanction their finances. We can get custodial sentences levied against them, and that will be the criminal courts.
Again, guys, yeah, he's almost almost, and again, no offense to Patrick, but he's almost making it sound more complicated than it is. I was advocating when we published this, first of all, I was advocating only criminal offences, only, just keep it sort of simple. It's only criminal offences. There's no fees, 2 bits of paper and information, and if someone's judge signs it, and I had a few of them done, right? But when he says we can sanction them, you know, basically it's the same as anybody going into any court for any criminal offence. You can either get fined and or jailed. Yeah, all right. So that's basically what he's talking about. That's what can happen.
Penalties. We can then hold them accountable in the High Court, and we can sanction their finances presently and going forward. There should be absolutely no quarter given to any public servant or state employee that breaches our constitutional rights. They have no excuse. They're being paid to do a job, and they have to work under statutory law. But it's up to us as citizens and people living in Ireland to hold them accountable. So I think it's time to...
and the last interruption, I hope now, guys, as he said, it's up to us, as he says, as citizens, as residents, as people living in this country. The law is there for us to use, right? The system is not going to hold itself or its agents to account. As a matter of fact, it'll bend over backwards, especially in corrupt Ireland. It'll bend over backwards in order to protect their toadies and lackeys. Because without the guards, without the court service, without the Ministry of Justice and all the people working in there, you know, without the, you know, the court staff and the, anyway, you know what I mean, all the civil servants and everything, that's the buffer. So they're going to protect them. That's why judges are politically appointed against international Bangalore principles.
Enter the district courts and summons these individuals and prosecute them and start getting our country back in shape to the republic it was meant to be. So if you're interested in finding out anything more about this, come to the Four Courts at 10 a.m. on Thursday, and let's start this process.
Right, so Patrick said it really well. We're down to the last 8 minutes or so, guys. So let's see. We'll just keep pumping away here now and see how I had... Oh, yeah, I've got to add this to the stage, yeah. So this was the comment I left under. When I saw that, I went, great, you know. And I said, yes, you know, and I sent a link to the book. So Section 10 of the Petty Sessions Ireland Act 1851 is still in force. See DIY Justice in Ireland by Stephen T. Manning, free criminal prosecutions. Yeah, this TikTok, I think you only got so many characters, right? One of the responders, Sean Murphy, actually commented. He said, look at the Stephen Manning case. They will not even acknowledge any paperwork he lodges. Another man, Fergal Deary from Monaghan. They are fighting cases as if they were Julian Assange or Tommy Robinson or Lucy Connolly. We'll have a look at her in a moment. And there are probably more, especially the law that governs wards of court. The entire system is built on a false constitution, not the one that was fought for. People don't know what they are voting for when they vote in an election. We're totally infiltrated by the British establishment. What is their fascination with us, whatever. Okay, I just pilled because I saw my name in it, of course. I went, yeah, at least someone is aware that I've been through this process and ran up against not just a brick wall, but as most people know, they also engineered it to throw me in prison at least twice. Came after my children, tried to take my son Danny, my special needs son Danny, away from me. And these are ruthless, absolutely ruthless, unconscionable, vicious, wicked people, which is partly how they got to the so-called top of the diabolical system. Okay. So very briefly, yes, this is the girl he mentioned. I looked her up, Lucy Connolly. I'm sorry the text run over here. I won't go into it too much. She wrote a tweet after the children were killed in Southport last year. The children were killed by this madman. And she wrote a tweet. It was an angry tweet. She said in so many words, she says, I couldn't care less if you burnt all the, I pass centers down, deport a lot of them. She was put in jail for nearly 3.5 years, guys. 3.5 years. Now, just look at the second paragraph here. Well, the bottom of the first paragraph. Kneecap are in a much greater position of cultural influence over others than some random 30-year-old housewife. That, I think, is indisputable. Oh, yeah, they had called out to the audience to kill their MPs, yeah? Yet, she languishes in prison while Kneecap have not so much as been charged, and so on and so forth. So that's who this Lucy Connolly is that was mentioned in that, in that slide. God bless her. And as the article is a gripped article, again, very good source of news, a gripped article that goes on to explain that the reason that a 30-year-old housewife is in jail is exactly because she's not dangerous. It's to send a message to everyone else. Yeah, if we can do this to her, look, guess what we're going to be able to do to you. All right, guys. Now, look, do you know what I'm going to do? Right, let's pull this up here. That's Integrity Ireland. While you're waiting for part 2 of this, because this is important that we get this out before Thursday. As a matter of fact, I'll try my best to do part 2 tomorrow evening, okay, live again. But we're starting here. We're in the last few minutes here. I'll only focus in on this slide for the moment. But as you can see there, I've got an arrow. That's the Integrity Ireland website. If you go to the front homepage and you go up to resources and links, okay, click there and you'll get a drop-down menu. I think I can show you that here now in a moment. You get a drop-down there on the left-hand side, guys, right? That menu drops down. Oh, I should have put an arrow. I'll put another arrow in it before tomorrow, okay, to show it to you, okay? And in that drop-down menu down there, Court and CI forms. That's Common Informer forms. If you want to do some research on your own before tomorrow night, please feel free to do so. If you want to go in onto the Integrity Ireland website, go down there because I've got these resources there, the forms that we were talking about, the information and the summons. There's an addendum which I'm going to read out tomorrow because it's really important that you understand why Ireland appears to be unique in the, I'll call it the Commonwealth, you know what I mean, guys? No offense to our traditionalists here. But we appear to be unique in the Commonwealth that we have preserved this ability for lay people to do these personal prosecutions, okay? Not even the guards have this facility anymore. The guards have to go through channels to do a prosecution. At one time, they had this power. It was taken off them, but it was retained for the everyday citizen resident, okay? And it'll be a joyous day for me because I suffered many, many years of harassment and attacks and false incarceration, and just because we discovered this and started telling people about it. And their response was typical tyrannical Cain satanic mindset: attack, shut them down, destroy their lives if you can do it, and send a warning out to everybody else: don't you mess with the establishment. Well, guess what, the establishment? I think your time is up. So with that, my friends, I'll stop there for tonight and thank everyone for your kind attention, for your time, for the comment. Sorry, I see the comments on the right, guys. I will go into YouTube and Facebook and wherever comments have been made and answer them where I can. But we'll do part 2 tomorrow, guys. Please stay. We'll do it at 7, okay? Part 2, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Please come because it's hugely important that Mr. McGreal gets the support that he deserves. God bless you.